This program is brought to you by Link TV for educational and non-commercial use only. Mosaic, a daily news program from Link TV, presents a selection of news reports from independent and state-controlled broadcasters from throughout the Middle East.
مجزرة إسرائيلية في بلدة بيت حانون
19 Palestinians, including 7 children, were martyred and more than 40 others were injured in a new Israeli massacre in the town of Beit Hanoun in the northern Gaza Strip. According to Palestinian security sources, 5 mortar shells fell within a 15-minute interval during the early morning hours at a residential area in Beit Hanoun. Meanwhile, a Hamas senior leader called on Palestinians to resume suicide attacks against Israel.
God is great. God is great.
The local residents of Beit Hanoun woke up this morning to the sound of prayers and the cries of the bereaved. Israeli warplanes fired at the homes of local residents in Beit Hanoun before dawn, killing and wounding dozens of them in their sleep. One family has lost 13 of its siblings, including 7 children. The Israeli occupation forces have turned the day in Beit Hanoun into a day of mourning. Even men sobbed in this dark day, not out of weakness but to express condemnation over an aggression that stole the dreams of many innocent children. These children were on their way to a local preschool or kindergarten, but Israeli war machines diverted their destination. More than 40 victims, mostly children, were transported to the city's hospital.
ما لا يقل عن 40 جريحا نقلوا إلى مستشفى المدينة أغلبهم من الأطفال.
While the doctors were able to save the lives of some of these children, others were not as lucky. You can see the violation of human rights and the rights of children in its ugliest form.
ترى هنا انتهاك حقوق الإنسان والطفل في أبشع صورة يمكن للمرء أن يتخيلها.
Sorry, madam, but your cry will not be heard by those who have the authority to hold Israel accountable. Meanwhile, the Arabs continue to remain silent, giving 1,000 reasons for their silence.
The Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas held Israel responsible for what he called heinous crimes that it has been committing in Gaza. Abbas commented on the latest Israeli aggression by saying that Israel has wasted all opportunities for peace with the Palestinians and called for the international community to intervene and stop Israeli practices.
Without a doubt, these are massacres, heinous massacres, ugly massacres that are being committed by Israel against the Palestinian people. We say to the Israelis, you indeed do not want peace. You have destroyed every given peace opportunity and therefore you will be responsible for the consequences. It is impossible for our people to tolerate this. We are telling the whole world, the United Nations, Europe, and the Quartet Committee to look at these ugly actions that Israel is committing. International intervention is needed to stop Israel from committing these actions.
The Palestinian Prime Minister Ismail Hanyeh called on the UN Security Council to hold an emergency meeting to discuss the Beit Hanoun massacre. Hanyeh announced that the Palestinian negotiations over the formation of a unity government have been suspended. He also called on the Arab League to hold an emergency meeting to discuss the Israeli massacres of Palestinians.
فجع الشعب الفلسطيني صبيحة هذا اليوم بهذه المجزرة الوحشية.
The Palestinian people were subjected to this brutal massacre this morning. The Zionist occupation committed this massacre against our Palestinian people, against our women and children while they were in their homes. Once again, this massacre proves that there is a Zionist mentality that believes in this bloody killing and wide-scale destruction of everything in the Palestinian land. The objective behind these massacres is either to bring the Palestinian people to their knees and force them to give up their rights and principles, or to force them to give up their right to resist and defend themselves.
وتنازله عن حقوقه وثوابته إما أن يتخلى الشعب الفلسطيني عن حقه في المقاومة وحقه في الدفاع عن نفسه
This nation has decided not to give up and not to give their right to resist and defend itself from the occupation and unjust aggression. I demand the UN Security Council to hold an emergency session to consider this massacre and all other massacres.
للوقوف على هذه المجزرة والمجازر جميعا.
Israel apologized today for a tragic military incident in Gaza early this morning in which 19 civilian Palestinians in Beit Hanoun were killed. The IDF has launched an investigation into the incident, and preliminary reports suggest the accident occurred because of faulty coordinates given to an artillery unit. IBA's Eli Wogelarter has the story.
According to Palestinian witnesses, the accident occurred at around 6 a.m. when dozens of tank shells and missiles landed in a small and confined area in Beit Hanoun. Eyewitnesses reported that at least 7 houses were hit in the strike and that most of the casualties were killed while still in bed. The IDF confirmed that an artillery battery containing 12 shells had been aiming at a site from where Qassam rockets were fired at Ashkelon yesterday, about half a kilometer from the Beit Hanoun houses. IDF officials made it clear that there was no intention to hit populated areas and that those who are endangering the civil population are the terror organizations. Following the incident, Defense Minister Amir Peretz launched an investigation and instructed the IDF to halt its artillery fire at Gaza until the completion of the probe. Reaction to the accident was swift and fierce. Rami Hamed, spokesman for the PA government, called Israel a country of animals.
I think this is undescribed crime. This confirmed that Israel is not a human being state. It is an animal state. These people are just coming for kill, just for murder, just to increase the number of the victims, just to make more massacres in the Palestinian territory. It is just kind of retaliation and revenge against our people.
Hamas has called on all Palestinian factions to renew suicide bombings inside Israeli territory and has called on Muslims around the world to attack American targets. Quote, America is offering political, financial, and logistic cover for the Zionist occupation crimes, and it is responsible for the Beit Hanoun massacre. Therefore, the people in the nation all over the globe are required to teach the American enemy tough lessons. Eli Wogelarter, IBA News.
And our reporter adds that in Syria, Hamas political boss Khalid Mash'al vowed that the organization would retaliate for Israel's offensive in Beit Hanoun by deed, not words. In a separate military operation in the West Bank, IDF troops shot and killed 4 armed gunmen in the village of Yamoun near Jenin. 1 Palestinian civilian was also killed during the pre-dawn raid. Palestinian sources reported that among the dead were the commander of the Al-Aqsa Martyrs Brigade and 3 of the group's members. Following today's IDF shelling in Gaza, efforts to form a Palestinian national unity government were put on hold. PA Prime Minister Ismail Haniya announced a suspension of talks following an emergency cabinet meeting in Gaza. PA Chairman Mahmoud Abbas expressed the hope the talks could soon be renewed. Abbas described the IDF shelling as an awful massacre and accused Israel of destroying all chances for peace. Former negotiator Saeb Erekat called on the international community to help the Palestinians.
We condemn with the strongest possible term this Israeli massacre that took the life of 18 innocent Palestinians this morning, mainly women and children. Scores of wounded, without legs, without hands. These children were being prepared by their mothers to go to school this morning. And this calls upon the international community to break their silence. The silence of the international community makes us astonished. And I believe that the international community must provide the Palestinian people with international protection.
A Qassam rocket slammed into the center of Sderot this morning, hitting the commercial center and causing extensive damage. 1 woman was wounded and taken to Barzilai Hospital in Ashkelon, and several people had to be treated for shock. 4 additional rockets landed in open areas in the western Negev today, striking near a kibbutz and near the Sufa crossing. The rocket that hit Sderot scored a direct hit on an empty store. IBA's Viva Press was in the beleaguered town shortly after the shelling and spoke to council member Shalom Halevi.
Every day, every morning, evening, every hour in the day, they sending Qassams to Sderot to kill people, to kill innocent people. What happened today is incident, but they are going to shoot especially on the citizen of Sderot. And it's a miracle that children and adults and people didn't killed by the Qassam rockets.
The army recently wrapped up an operation in Gaza called Autumn Rain Clouds. They said that that's it, they finished their purpose, it's time to move on. Do you believe that the army has finished what it started?
No, I think that there is a big mistake that the army go out from Beit Hanoun. They need to continue and to kill and to make big activities in Gaza until they will understand that it's not the way to shoot to Sderot.
The Algerian people commemorated the 52nd anniversary of the Algerian Revolution against the French occupation, which claimed the lives of more than 1.5 million Algerian martyrs. This revolution has become the most glorious model of resistance against colonization in recent history. Reconciliation efforts between the French and Algerian people suffered a setback when the French Parliament passed a law glorifying the French colonization of North Africa in February 2004. France also refuses to apologize for the crimes it committed against the Algerian people. This explains why the anticipated partnership agreement between the two countries has been put on the back burner.
52 years have passed since the eruption of the Algerian Revolution against the French occupation, but the anniversary of this revolution still brings to memory the crimes that were committed against the Algerian people. This memory is passed from one Algerian generation to the other. Algerians who still remember these crimes are demanding that the French government apologize and stop trying to forge history. The French government instead passed a law on the 23rd of February 2005 glorifying the French colonization in Algeria.
الثورة الجزائرية استمرت 7 سنوات ونصف وكانت حرب ضروس.
The Algerian Revolution lasted for 7.5 years. It was a fierce battle that destroyed everything. We are commemorating the memory of the Algerian Revolution not only because we want to show that we are proud of our history, but also because we want to deliver a message to the new generation about the struggle of the Algerian people for freedom. We want them to know what happened. Freedom did not come easily, nor was it given voluntarily by France, as it is claiming. Freedom and independence came with the jihad and sacrifices of the Algerian people.
جاءت بفضل التضحيات وبفضل الجهاد والنضال.
The Algerian authorities hold celebrations to glorify the Algerian history and commemorate its revolution against the French. And many Algerian national organizations and political parties also organize conferences on this specific date to give an opportunity to the old mujahideen who witnessed the reality of occupation to teach people about colonization.
من أجل حماية الذاكرة تعمل المنظمة على تسييد نقطتين أساسيتين أولهما
We want to keep the memory alive. We work to achieve two important points. First, we persistently and without any compromise demand that the French government offer an official apology for the crimes it committed during its colonization of Algeria against our people, resources and properties.
وأرزاقنا وأموالنا وكل ما كنا نملكه من أرزاق.
It seems that it is difficult for Algeria to sign the partnership agreement with France after the French Parliament decided not to reverse the law that was passed on February 23, 2005, glorifying the French colonization of Algeria.
I believe that it is impossible for Algeria to sign the partnership agreement with France in this current situation. The decision not to reverse the French law that was passed on April 23, 2005, glorifying the French colonization, has created divisions between the two countries. However, there are signs that these differences may be abated because Algeria showed good intentions. A meeting is supposed to be held to discuss the nuclear tests that France carried out in the Algerian desert and about a possible visit for Chirac to Algeria. This might be the beginning of a reversal in the February 23rd law.
Every year, the anniversary of the November Algerian Revolution destroys all bridges of reconciliation that were built during the whole year. Once again, it seems that the partnership agreement between France and Algeria will not be signed in the near future. For Al Madar program, Saad Tabati, Abu Dhabi channel, Algeria.
Turkish political blocs have rejected a European Union report calling on Ankara to recognize Cyprus and allowing religious freedom to its ethnic minorities. According to some analysts, the European Parliament report, which will be released on Wednesday, is Ankara's last warning if it wants its membership not to be denied by the European Union.
The European Parliament report, which favored Cyprus, has not yet cancelled a membership application filed by Turkey to join the EU. The European Parliament has threatened to veto a proposal to allow Ankara to join its union if the latter continues closing its air and sea ports to Cyprus. Meanwhile, the Turkish Prime Minister Recep Tayyip Erdogan said that the ban imposed on the Turkish side of Cyprus must be lifted and the problem must be resolved in accordance with UN resolutions.
The EU Parliament report, which will be released on November 8, 2006, is not binding. The European Foreign Affairs Committee's report on Cyprus will not change our stance. The only solution to the problem is to lift the ban imposed on the Turkish side of Cyprus and adhere to UN resolutions.
The EU report has criticized Turkey for not living up to the commitments the country made regarding political and social reforms. In addition, the report also demanded Ankara to amend Article 301, reopen priesthood schools, and grant religious freedom to its ethnic minorities. All Turkish political parties have criticized the EU report, saying it lacks objectivity.
Regardless of the EU stance, we will implement the sections of the report that are necessary for our people.
We reject this report because we think that some elements in it were written with political motives. The European Union is adopting a double standard policy, which we reject.
The EU has not acknowledged the fact that Turkey has made progress on its political reforms. The Europeans want us to withdraw from the negotiations.
The EU report urges all sides to work together in order to find a political solution to the Kurdish plight and abide by the ceasefire that was proposed by the Kurdistan Workers' Party. The Turkish government, which is gearing up for the upcoming parliamentary elections, has not offered any concessions to opposition groups. The EU report on Turkey's progress regarding the implementation of political reforms and the compliance with articles of the Copenhagen Agreement did not favor Turkey. This news may hamper Ankara's efforts to join the EU.
Iraq's Kurdistan Regional Government, KRG, said that it has drafted its own oil policy, which is expected to be endorsed by the Kurdistan National Assembly, and it had submitted a proposal regarding a federal oil law to the central government. Some of the articles in the new Kurdish law are in contradiction with the federal oil law, which may lead to a disagreement between the KRG and the central government in Baghdad. Ahmed Al-Jabr reports.
The Iraqi Deputy Prime Minister, who has been appointed chairman of the committee drafting the new Iraqi oil law, has acknowledged the existence of problems with the draft oil law for Kurdistan. He said that despite these problems, the will of the righteous people shall prevail. The Deputy Prime Minister refused to go into detail about the disagreement between Baghdad and Arbil regarding the Kurdish oil law. However, he affirmed that the talks on completing the Iraqi oil law will be resumed soon with the participation of Kurdish representatives. He added that the committee drafting the Iraqi oil law will submit a draft to the Iraqi parliament by the end of the year. Meanwhile, the new Kurdish oil law is expected to be presented soon to the Kurdish National Assembly. Most likely, the new Kurdish oil law will contradict the federal oil oil law of the central government. Khalid Salih, the official spokesman for the KRG, affirmed his government's intention to go ahead with implementing the law. He explained the law is consistent with the Iraqi constitution, which clearly acknowledges that regional law supersedes the federal government on this matter. Salih added that the Iraqi central government has not officially disapproved of the existing oil laws in the Iraqi region of Arbil. Dr. Mushin Sadoun, vice president of the legal committee within the Iraqi parliament and a member of the Kurdish alliance, said that the new Kurdish oil law was based on Article 115 of the Iraqi constitution. According to Article 115, all that is not stipulated in the power of federal authority falls within the regional powers of the regional authorities and governorates that have not been formed into regions. Regarding the joint powers between the federal government and the regions, priority in them, in the case of any disagreement between them, is for the law of the regions and the governorates that have not been formed into regions. However, the new Kurdish oil law contains several articles, such as the one on the redistribution of wealth, which may contradict the federal oil law. According to Section 2 of Article 7 of the new Kurdish law, the oil minister of the KRG will approve and oversee all oil contracts in the region. Meanwhile, Article 80 of the new Kurdish oil law dictates that the central government in Baghdad reserves the power to review oil contracts in Kurdistan. According to Article 5 of the Kurdish law, the region will share oil proceeds with the Iraqi people in accordance with the Iraqi constitution. In addition, Amendment A of the new Kurdish oil law dictates that oil proceeds must be distributed fairly among the regions. The new Kurdish oil law gives the KRG the power to control oil fields in all disputed areas, including Kirkuk. However, if Kirkuk is not annexed to Kurdistan in the upcoming referendum in December 2007, then the federal government will control oil fields there.
Democrats swept Republicans from power in the House of Representatives and moved to the brink of capturing the Senate, where their final victory could be delayed for weeks by a possible recount in Virginia. Democrats rolled up gains of about 30 seats in the House in Tuesday's elections, riding to a huge victory on a wave of public discontent with the Iraq War. U.S. President George Bush is to address the Americans at 6 GMT or 8 p.m. Lebanese time. Sarah Khouri reports on the heated elections.
In a harsh setback to President George W. Bush and Republicans, Democrats picked up 4 of the 6 Senate seats they needed for a majority and lead in the race for the other 2 in Montana and Virginia, threatening to take control of both chambers of Congress for the first time in 12 years. An expected recount and possible legal challenges in Virginia could delay a final result, dredging up memories of the 2000 presidential election recount that lasted 5 weeks. A potential recount could stretch into December, leaving Senate control uncertain. The narrow governing majority in Congress, especially the Senate, were almost certain to spawn more partisan gridlock and political warfare during Bush's final 2 years in the White House. Democratic control of the White House will make outspoken liberal representative Nancy Pelosi the first female speaker and could slam the brakes on much of Bush's agenda and increase pressure for a change of course in Iraq. All 435 House seats, 33 of the 100 Senate seats, and 36 of the 50 governorship were at stake. Democratic Senator Hillary Rodham Clinton sailed to an easy re-election win in New York, setting up a likely 2008 presidential run. Democrats also scored big win in races, taking 6 seats from Republicans and winning a national majority that could give them an edge in the 2008 presidential election. The Democratic sweep in the White House reaches deep into Republican bastions like Indiana. The Democratic victory gives the party control of House legislative committees that could investigate the Bush administration's most controversial decisions on foreign, military, and energy policy. Democrats have promised votes on an agenda within the first 100 hours of taking House power, including new ethics rules, a rise in the minimum wage, reduced subsidies to the oil industry, and improvements in border and port security. Democrats hammered Republicans for spawning a culture of corruption in Washington, with 4 Republican House members resigning this year under an ethics cloud. The party was hit by allegations about influence peddling, links to convicted lobbyists, and a Capitol Hill sex scandal involving Republican Representative Mark Foley's lewd messages to teenage male congressional assistants.
الأبيض الأمريكي اليوم بفوز الديمقراطيين في انتخابات مجلس النواب وهذه هي المرة.
The White House acknowledged the Democrats' victory in the U.S. congressional elections. It is the first time since 1994 that the Democrats have taken control of the House of Representatives. So far, 6 Democrats have been elected for governorships for the first time in 12 years. In the Senate, Democrat Claire McCaskill won an important seat in the state of Missouri after she won against the Republican candidate Jim Talent, who acknowledged his defeat. Democrats have so far won 4 seats in the Senate. However, they still need 2 seats for a majority. One of these seats is in the state of Virginia, which will announce its results after a few days and which is needed to gain a majority in the 100-member Senate.
وذلك للسيطرة على مقاعد المجلس المؤلف من 100 عضو.
اعترف البيت الأبيض بفوز الديمقراطيين في انتخابات مجلس النواب وعبر عن رغبته في
The White House has acknowledged the Democratic victory in the United States congressional elections and expressed its desire to work with the new majority on the issue of Iraq and what the White House spokesman called the war on terror, as well as the economy.
فازوا بالأغلبية في مجلس النواب في الكونغرس الأمريكي للمرة الأولى منذ عام 94.
An American media source said that the Democrats won the majority in the U.S. House of Representatives for the first time since 1994. The source stated that the Democrats have at least 221 seats out of 435 seats as a result of these midterm elections. In these elections, Democrat Keith Ellison has become the first American Muslim to be elected to a seat in the United States Congress. Democrat Deval Patrick was elected as governor of Massachusetts. He is the first Black American to become governor of this state and the second ever Black American to be elected a state governor in all of the United States. The Democrats have taken power. Thus, President Bush's campaign tour, during which he traveled to 10 states to support Republican candidates, did not work.
هيثم بن حسين العربية.
U.S. President George W. Bush has conceded that his Iraq policy was not working well enough, fast enough, after announcing that Defense Secretary Donald Rumsfeld was stepping down. Rumsfeld resigned after Democrats swept Republicans from power in the U.S. Congress after gaining about 30 seats to take control of the House of Representatives and picking up 5 of the 6 Republican seats they need for a Senate majority. They led in the other race in Virginia, putting them near control of both chambers of Congress for the first time in 12 years. But a final decision on Senate control could be delayed by a potential recount and possible legal challenges in Virginia, dredging up memories of the 2000 presidential election recount that lasted 5 weeks.
The views expressed on Mosaic are those of the participating broadcasters, not Link TV or its sponsors. Please visit linktv.org/Mosaic for more information about these broadcasters or to view previous Mosaic programs, obtain program transcripts, or receive the weekly Mosaic Intelligence Report. Mosaic is made possible by a grant from the William and Flora Hewlett Foundation. Additional support is provided by the Feyerdahl Foundation, the Otto Haas Charitable Trust, and by committed Link TV viewers like you. If you value this program, please send your tax-deductible contribution to Link TV, either through the website or the mailing address listed on your screen. This program was brought to you by Link TV for educational and non-commercial use only. Link TV is the only U.S. television network devoted to global and national news, with uncompromising documentaries and diverse cultural programs which connect you to the world.